Hey folks, this is Michael Gold, and I'm here with the first episode of the CCERP podcast, Cypress Creek Ecological Restoration Project, CCERP. So, I'll be doing this. Hopefully, one day in the future, someone will take it over from me. Um, but I'll be having different co-hosts in the meantime, hosts and co-hosts, and be talking about our creek, Cypress Creek, the local area, ecology in general. Um, we started this whole thing. I've been picking up trash for a long time, and you know, I like to be selfish and do it myself. It's a good workout. Gets me out in nature. I'm enjoying it. There's nice solitude. Um, People think of trash pickup, but going out in the woods, I get to do a lot of mobility work, strength work. There's so much involved, and I'd like to keep it for myself. I love the workout, but I'm not going to live forever. And there's been flooding on the creek for like 50 years or more, and no one's picked it up, I'm sure. And the creek is huge, and I just can't do it all. So I've um, caved in and yielded and succumbed and given up. I don't think I can do it on myself, so I know I need help. So I started this thing. And of course, it's not just about trash pickup. The reason to do it is to get out in nature and exercise and make the ecology healthy. It's broader than that. So, of course, I didn't call it CC TPP, the Cypress Creek Trash Pickup Project, or something like that. You know? Because it's a deeper purpose. So it's more ecological, having to do with our nature and our relationship to our world and having a healthy world that we can live in. Um, that's a more fundamental reason. And so, of course, trash pickup is one thing, and then why we do it, the effect it's going to have on our environment, in our own lives, us, our children, the area, keeping things healthier, taking care of the animals and the plants because we depend upon them. It's like in our best interest. If we want to live well and be healthy, then the things that we depend upon for our survival, those things need to be healthy and be well and have a good environment that they need. So, um, all that's involved. And, then we'll remove invasive species. We got this podcast going. It'd be nice in the future when this is bigger to have speakers and have events and things like that. But start small. Just like some people know about, like there's some beach somewhere that was just trash, and I don't know, there was like 3 feet deep of trash or something, and one guy just started going out to clean it up.
Hmm.
You know, it's like, and then a few other people joined him, and then a few other people, and eventually they cleaned up the whole beach, and now it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But so that's in brief, what the group's about and how it comes about. And Melanie's going to join us for this episode today, just the intro show. So, will you introduce yourself, Melanie?
Hi, this is Melanie.
Okay, good. That's a very good introduction.
I'm in Minnesota.
But,
And yeah, go ahead. What do you-
but you know about the creek. The kids know about it. Like I've worked with Melanie's children.
Well, and we personally came
Yeah,
to see it and
yeah,
be a part of it, and we,
two of
developed a
them.
complete love for it because it's
Yeah,
just so beautiful and amazing there.
and yeah. So all three of our kids I've worked with, and they have seen the area on video and in pictures, and we've studied biology and ecology looking at it, done a lot of outdoor classes where I'd use my cell phone on Skype.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and then Melanie and one of her kids, Jack, came down and got to see it personally. Um,
Yeah, I mean, obviously better in person, of
yeah,
course, because the video sure can't do it.
yeah,
But it was a great introduction, the video, the Skyping and FaceTiming and all that was a great way to see what we had to, come down and explore. My son Jack, I think, as far as like he's my outdoor kid, he loves being outside. But to see him in that element where there's no limit to how, far we could go and climb and all the different sort of shapes of the ground you had to walk on and things like that. It was great seeing him in his element, it felt like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to get him out there, challenge him, have him do new things, push him to some limits. It was good to see him sometimes not wanting to do some things. He had the sense to think, okay, that's above my level. I don't want to do this. And then I made some videos. Some people would think it's boring, but I like watching him sometimes go up and down the side of the creek to get some trash. And he'd be standing there for like a minute or literally 3 or 5 minutes trying to figure out where to go and what to do. The mental processing is important. I think a lot of people devalue that. Just look at the physical movement. But that was interesting. And that shows how complex the environment is and how you really got to think about where you're going. Do a lot of problem solving and planning. But yeah, so you come down. You see it in person. It makes a difference. And if people would get out more, some do, thank goodness, but if people would get out more, they'd realize how nice of an area we have, how much it helps you and benefits you. It's nice. It's good for your health. It's a good enjoyment thing, and therefore you should take care of it. Because a lot of places don't have anything like this. Like, that's why Jack could come down and be able to do so much and have this different environment and be able to walk really far. Whereas, where you are now, you got a park nearby and stuff, but it just doesn't have this kind of opportunity and breadth and length and scope.
Yeah.
And it's surprisingly beautiful. It's like sometimes I take pictures and people say, "That's in Houston?"
I know, yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. It's very scenic. There's not great running water here like that. You have Cypress Creek, which just feeds all of that around it, and it gives it a whole different dimension. Just walking into the woods, that's one thing, but having the moving water right there to observe and be a part of, you can actually go in it. We did, and it's really neat walking through that sand, and sometimes it was clay, and so many different textures.
All the different micro ecosystems within the bigger, broader biome. That's interesting because we got some ponds, we got the creek, gullies flowing into the creek, and then we got the deciduous forest nearby, mix of like coniferous and deciduous forest, pine trees and oaks. And then you got the riparian areas, the areas between water and forest, or the broader land. And some places where there's only pine. I know a little area where it's totally pine. And then you go down and there's more willow and button bush and some ash and I think some hackberry, and then you come down to the pond, and that's where you got more of the willow growing around there because their root system can handle the moisture, whereas some other trees can't handle being wet so much because it rots the roots. But it's interesting seeing the little transitions right there. Pond and willow and reeds and grasses, and then this little oak, little pine area, and then you go one way and you got the forest, and you go down the other way and you got the riparian area, and then the creek. And there's a lot more out here than people might realize. We got all kinds of birds and mammals and insects, and there's actually in our creek different types of mussels, and we actually have little shrimp. I didn't know it until after Hurricane Harvey, when there was a puddle left, so everything's just all flooded. It's like 5-10 feet of water in different places for a long time. So of course the aquatic life moves around, fish and turtles, and then the water subsides and some aquatic animals get trapped in a little area, and then it dries up, and I found actually little shrimp.
Huh.
We have like teeny tiny little shrimp that are just like, I don't know, half an inch long or something, quarter half an inch long, that actually live in our water. And, you don't see them because they're so small, and I guess because of their lifestyle and everything, but we have that. And dragonflies, dragonfly nymphs. I've seen, what is it? I forgot some of the mussels I've seen out here. Yellow paper shell, I think it is. Fragile sand shell, something like that. Forgot the exact names. And these pimple mussels. I forgot what they're called. I have to look up the exact name. But snapping turtles, all kinds of different turtles in the water. And then
Were some of,
what?
we saw a bunch of, I thought, like little schools of minnows. Were those
Oh yeah,
minnows?
yeah.
A
Little
bunch
minnows, little fish, different fish, catfish out here, and
yeah.
I haven't gotten into the fish too much. I don't remember gar, catfish, bluegill,
Mm.
a lot of other stuff in the creek, and then some of the ponds around here are stocked. People can fish, but a whole lot to do. And then we actually have beaver in our creek.
Mm-hmm.
Beaver and river otter are making a comeback. I think they were wiped out, unfortunately. People go after them for fur and all that. And then they're not there anymore. Then no more fur. People need to think better.
Mm-hmm.
If we want something, okay, but we should take care of the thing that we depend upon too, so we can have it more. But this nice beaver out here, I wouldn't have believed that unless I had seen it myself, because they seem to me like a northern animal. Like bald eagles and beaver down here, it's like, no, we don't. But since I've seen bald eagles and beaver down here, I know. I haven't seen beaver in person, but I have seen their markings. Tracks, foraging marks, stuff like that. Remember we saw that when you were down here?
We came across a whole area where they had chewed off a bunch of small trees, and there were lots of stubs left.
Yeah, taking them down and taking down the tree and chewed some of the tree like corn on the cob, and seen where they had dragged some branches down into the creek.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's very distinctive. That's beaver and nothing but beaver that does that. But
well, and it was kind of a good chance for Jack to see, maybe like when you're tracking, you're trying to see how old might this be. Like we were able to compare fresh, chewed off stumps or trees versus like say ones that had been kind of done a while ago. And that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Showing that to Jack. You were able to show him all that.
Yeah, so it's very good. This is a great place to study biology and ecology. Like, people are faking it in a lot of schools, memorizing stuff. They have words. They think they know DNA. We don't have the hierarchical background for it. They don't know all the things about reproduction that they need to understand DNA, or about chemistry. And they think they understand DNA when they do not at all. It's just, they might as well be studying Pokemon. You're memorizing little characters and little properties of them, but you don't know anything. Nothing in reality.
Hinting at Jack on that one.
But so that's another great thing that's good to do. More people, students, adults, kids should get out and study and take care of biology that way, by getting out and looking at it instead of faking it by memorizing words. It's a great opportunity that people used to have as part of daily life, but doesn't happen so much anymore as it should.
Yeah, different times at this point.
But
so we had to make the effort so that Jack could actually go and experience. I want to get the other guys there too.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Nothing wrong with it, doing that. It's a great vacation.
Yeah.
Great way to learn.
And we also have nutria in the water. I think I seen a nutria one time. I don't know if it was a beaver or a nutria. I was going around a corner along the creek, went on the trail on this bend, and then right as I went by, I looked over, and there was something on a log in the middle of the creek, and it went right in. So I didn't have a chance to ID it too well, observe it too long to see what it was. Could have been beaver, but maybe nutria. But a lot of stuff in our water, and of course, other animals go down there to drink, and we got great egret, great blue heron, egret, other birds that come in this area, kingfisher. I forgot. There's a pink bird I haven't seen for a long time. It'll be down here. I forgot the name of that. It's in my head. I just can't get it out. And
Flamingo?
no. And we got whooping crane that come through the area. Not flamingo. It's something else. But so there's then deer go down to the water to drink and cross the creek a lot. So with all that, we should be. And then people take their dogs down there, or people want to go fish. So we should take better care of the water. That's a critical thing. We can't survive without water, and we shouldn't be polluting the water so that our dogs are drinking it and getting sick, or we can't catch some fish and eat them.
Yeah.
And take care of the creek so we retain water instead of trying to get rid of it. That's a mistake some people make. It floods sometimes, so they want to get rid of the water, and then what do? Pay a bunch of money to get it back so they can water their yards. When just retain it in the first place, and so
What do you mean by get rid of it? What does that mean? What do you mean by try to get rid of the water?
I mean, like, there's flooding, and so they want to straighten the creek and all this and do all this stuff so it doesn't soak into the soil, and so it all washes away into the ocean. Okay. Get rid of the water. Get rid of the water. Whereas if people were more ecologically and biologically and geologically informed, they do things to help soak up and retain the water. Just like what Gabe Brown, a farmer, and Joel Salatin, a farmer, they farm ecologically informed, and therefore when there's periods of drought, when other people are having to pay to bring in water and their crops are failing, these people have taken care of their land, and so the land returns the favor, so to speak, and they've got good water retention in their soil. Their water tanks have water in them, so they can survive these droughts and not have to pay a bunch of money to bring in water when other people are doing it and having trouble. If we did the same thing, if we do things smart, we'll retain the water, we can soak it in. Bad soil causes a lot of runoff as well as erosion, whereas good soil can absorb a lot of water. I don't remember the exact details in this book that Gabe Brown wrote that I listened to, but when you take care of soil, it can absorb, I don't remember what he said, like inches of water per hour before anything ever runs off. Whereas when it's bad, then it can't soak anything in, it just all runs off the surface. And that's when you're going to have more flooding. It should serve as a sponge to soak up and retain the water.
Yeah. So it has like a loam heat
I guess so.
kind of composition. Yeah.
I don't know. If you say so. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a part of good soil.
Yeah. But that's another thing we want to work on, like picking up trash, appreciating the area, getting people outdoors, making the area more ecologically healthy, removing invasive species, making it more biologically appropriate, not have, get rid of chemicals that shouldn't be there, have chemicals that should be. Help spread ideas about how to take care of land and soil and how to build better. We'd like to do that too. Kind of educate as well as like pick up trash.
Mhm. Mhm.
But and then talk about some of the history. A lot of history in the area too. It's fascinating to study about what's happened here in the 70s and 1870s and 1270s and all that. So I think when General Sam Houston was marching to San Jacinto to fight the Battle of San Jacinto, he marched along Cypress Creek. There's even some historic site further north of where I live, like northwest, I think. And I think I haven't been able to figure out anything out on a map for sure, but from talking to someone, he said that Sam Houston, his army marched on the opposite side of the creek from like where I live. So the kind of southern part, it might be southwestern part. March along there for a while to get to San Jacinto. But and then we've had Indians living along the creek for thousands of years. I think they were here for a while, left a little bit, came back. But of course, there's like some archaeological sites have been found around Meyer Park and along with maybe Little Cypress Creek when the county was making 99 this whole way. And what was it? I think the what are they? Akokikawa and Akokisa, something like that. I gotta look it up exactly. I could put it in show notes. Some tribes that lived around this area. And who was Cabeza de Vaca might have been in this area. He was a Spanish explorer that was shipwrecked in this area, and he and some of his men survived, and they were enslaved by local Indians. And I think he and his men marched. There were only a few of them. Marched like 3,000 miles around Texas and northern Mexico, basically barefoot and naked, because they were slaves, these Indians. They'd be traded off. They'd be slaves of some, and then slaves of some other, and they might escape. But they were able to get good status because they were known as healers. And so they were treated better than they otherwise would have been. They were still slaves and kind of mistreated to some extent, but they were widely known throughout the area broadly as people who could, heal the sick. They had special powers. That's interesting. And so, an interesting thing about him, I recommend people read his account of being here, or some biographies of him, because he provides an account of how the Indians lived before there was any European contact. So it's really interesting. A little bit about, he talks about what they ate, some of their customs. And it's interesting how they'd move around to eat. There were bison down here that they eat. The bison used to go all the way up north and all the way down to the Gulf Coast. That's another thing I didn't know. We associate, when we're learning in school, bison with the Great Plains, but they actually came all the way down here.
Yeah.
And sometimes they have trouble finding food depending on the weather. Sometimes it get, like in the winter, it could be cold, and they'd have trouble finding as much food. If they lived in some places, maybe they can get fish. If they lived more out in the hill country, they can get more deer. Around where I live, it was the conditions are a little harsher to survive. And I hear that sometimes they'd have to eat forest M&Ms forest M&Ms are like deer pellets.
Ah, I figured
Yeah.
there was something there.
Hey, they were just doing what they could to survive. But um, interesting account. And I, so the Indians around here probably knew of Cabeza de Vaca, no doubt. But some people thought that maybe Cabeza de Vaca had walked around this area. But from what I've seen from better research, I think he stayed more along the coast.
Mm,
So he would have been, um, what, 60, 100 miles south of here. So he
mm,
probably stayed more along the coast, went more around through maybe Corpus, went into northern Mexico, and then crossed, I think, to the other side of Mexico to more like Pacific coast around there um, to get back to Spanish settlement. Some other people thought maybe he went further north and went just south of Austin, and then went into Mexico more around maybe El Paso, if I remember right. But as I say, from some stuff I've looked at just briefly, I think the better researched, better accounted for idea is that he went along the Gulf Coast. Um, there's a lot of interesting history in the area.
yeah.
I think people just move here and don't know much and know it's just what it is. But if we have dig into it, there's a lot more. But I mean, that's one thing. Well, when I have the CCERP thing to
Hmm.
um, be a source for all this interesting information. What plants and animals are native? Because if we look at native stuff, they're used to the conditions, so they're easier to grow. They can handle the drought more. They're they've evolved and adapted to the local climatic conditions. Um, you don't got to give them all this extra water and waste money on it and stuff like that. Um, and they
Yeah.
draw, the local insects, and that feeds local birds. Um, and you can have a better garden with local stuff that requires a lot less care, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's one thing too, like learning about some of the plants that are edible that you can add to your diet. And, you're not going to pay for a bunch of seeds, just like this guy, Dr. Mark Merriweather Forderbruggen. Um, he's got a website called foragingtexas.com. Thank you, Mark. It's a great site. Helps a lot of people. Um, but like he said there, I don't know where he got the idea, but if you just put in a little bird bath or something or a bird feeder, birds are going to bring the local seeds. You're not going to pay for them, you know? And then you just kind of like pull up what you don't want and leave what you want, and it's going to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if we do stuff like that, people will be healthier. You got, um, you can lower your food bill. People can grow different things and share it with each other. Heck, down here, it's a great weather for orange trees and other citrus. Um, one person on the block grows an orange tree. They can trade them out with other people for other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I found, like, after some flooding, some people were forced to move, and they had a citrus tree in their yard, and I found that. And the first time I found it, the first summer, geez, I got like 100 oranges from it or more. And they were the best oranges I've ever had in my life. They were so juicy and tender. They
Yeah.
weren't dry like some, or they didn't have this bad texture. You're just like, ugh. They were like
Yeah.
fresh picked, right, fresh picked, great. And then, it had been there for a long time, and then all of a sudden the county wants to come out and butcher it to get it away from the like some power lines, even though it had been around them for like I don't know how many years. And of course, when you do
Huh.
that to an orange tree, from what I've heard, you kill it. I got to go back and look at it again, but it's probably dead now. But I think
Mm.
after they did that, I went out and it barely had anything on it. So there was this great orange tree. It's so good, produced so much fruit, and not anymore. But
Yeah. Hmm.
that's another thing we can do around here. It'd be good to get people to think about, get people doing. But um, So yeah, there's a lot of history around here that's really interesting. But please don't get artifacts. It's illegal on public land. People can do as much as they want on private land.
Mm-hmm.
Go at it, but not on public.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't mind so much. One thing I hate about some of the people who do it is they just destroy everything. They leave trash. I've seen people, they're sieving in the creek, so they get some sand and run it through a sieve on the side of the creek, and then I find these little piles of pebbles and broken glass. If they put everything back, but they leave freaking broken glass all over the side of the creek, so if someone comes down there with a dog, their dog can step on it and cut their foot. It's like that crosses the line. I don't go with that. Or someone come down barefoot and step on it, and then all these animals that don't have access to hospitals could step on it. It's like if they were looking for artifacts and they would pick up the broken glass in their trash, they'd be different. And do like the Boy Scouts and leave no trace.
Yep.
Then I wouldn't know because they'd be leaving no trace.
Yeah.
Or I found like places in the woods where literally it's like 5 or 10 feet wide. Like they dig out to look for artifacts. It's like 5 or 10 feet by 5 or 10 feet, and then it's like 3 feet deep or so. And they dig this up, and they don't even put the damn dirt back.
Wow.
And they're tearing up the soil, roots of trees, could cause some trees to die. And then I found like a bunch of water bottles lying around when they do it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if they'd at least put the dirt back and leave no trace and take all their bottles out, it'd be different. But it's like they like way across the line. So it's beyond breaking the law.
Can I ask, what is it they're trying to get? What are they digging up?
Indian artifacts, looking for arrowheads, pottery, bones, stuff like that. And then they want to sell them on eBay maybe, or online somewhere, or keep some of them, but it's illegal. But no, I'm not stupid. So Melanie and I were just talking to each other. Sorry, folks. But so that's some of the stuff we want to talk about in the podcast, on the Facebook group. Maybe one day we'll have a website, but talk about the ecology of the area, the animals, the plants, the history, ancient Indians, more recent times when like land use, because I think at one time there used to be a lot of river cane here, like bamboo, a lot of that, but Mark Merriweather, Porterbruggen, said when people would raise cows here, the cows loved the river cane, and so they ate a lot of it up, and that's why a lot of it's gone. But there's still areas where we can find it. It's still native, pretty cool. So we'll talk about that, the benefits of hawks and owls, and correct some mistaken thinking some people have, like on snakes. Snakes are very beneficial. If people want to be scared of them, cool, go for it, but we need to keep them because they're very important. Yeah. We'll be talking about that. Animals, plants, history, ecology. Have people on to just talk about how they enjoy the area. Like maybe we can, Melanie, you can talk about your exact experiences here one day. We want to talk about that too. We want to enjoy it. That's part of it. It's not a service. It's doing things because we love it and we benefit from it. Yeah. So, I'll have an interview scheduled in the next few days to talk about ecology. But anything else, Melanie, that I might have missed about what the show's about and what we're doing and why? And
I guess I'd put a plug in for the site that you have on Facebook where people can go there to organize and meet with you. Oh, yeah. And then come down and you guys can explore and clean up and exercise. And I really like that you're doing that.
Cool.
Because that's a way for people to find you, and join in. That's great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
So this was wonderful.
That's just a brief intro show. Hopefully we touched bases on pretty much everything. But cool. So thanks, Melanie, for joining me on this intro show. And you have a good day. And thanks, folks, for listening. And we'll be hearing more in the future. So get out there and enjoy it. Clean it up, take care of it, love it. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. Bye.
That's great.